Oh, well, let's see here. My name's Jeannie Gallagher, and I would guess my titles in life would be mother, grandmother, wife. I have many, many titles, but those are the three most important to me. I was here at home scrolling through the news on the internet till I found out. I was just here on my phone scrolling. A lot of major events. The biggest ones that come to mind are the riots and the the protests, the unfair treatment of the protesters, and
Well, a little bit about me is uh, I'm a filmmaker. I'm first of all, well, I am a black woman. I am a filmmaker. I am a TV producer. But before all of that, I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a really good best friend. um, I'm a cousin and a proud auntie. So, why the murder of George Floyd, the uprisings, the protests, all of this happening here in my home state, why it's important to me? Because this is indeed my home. I am a very proud black Minnesotan, and we have a very unique relationship to this state. And so when one of us is taken, even if they're transplants, even if they just got here or they're not originally from here, when it happens here, um, it's devastating. People don't understand that this happened 3, 4, 5 times. This has happened a lot in Minnesota. The ones that are most prominent is Jamar Clark and Philando Castile. But it's happening. It happened again, and we're just tired of it happening. We're tired of being in the streets. We're tired of constantly having to remind people that my black life matters. Not a hashtag, not a hashtag, not a slogan. No, no, no. That my actual black life matters, and so that is why it's so important. Where was I? So I myself, um, where I was when this all went down, was on Facebook. I think I might have been at work, but I was refusing to watch the live. So this was happening live. Like people were sharing the feed. I think that was happening, and I'm familiar with the South Side, so I knew this place. I knew Cup Foods. I knew the area. I have friends who have businesses in this area. So I was like, okay, I'm praying that, you know, this doesn't end up what it ended up as. But I kept refusing to see. I was like, I can't watch another black man die. I just can't watch another black man die. And so I'm basically scrolling, but I'm like, nope, 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 don't send this to me. I cannot watch it. There's just certain things for me that I don't want to subject my spirit to. So even though I know that we're about to be in the streets again, we're about to be really mad and fight for this man's life, but I just can't watch it again. It just triggers, reminds me that at any given moment I could be killed. And so I just didn't want to be reminded that day. So, to my knowledge, a young black man, well, semi young, I guess, walked into a store, was accused of some sort of counterfeit bill, and the police were called. He was taken out of the store. The entire time was not resisting arrest, definitely was arguing. And they put him in the car, took him out the car. They wrestled with him. They was fighting with him, yet he wasn't fighting back. And they put their knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And he died calling for his mother. And I believe this was someone I had met. That revelation came many, many moons later, that I believe because of my work in media in some capacity, I may have met this man. He was a gentle giant. He was a big guy. And so that really messed with me, thinking and that we may have had some sort of interaction. And so that is what I remember. And again, I didn't watch the video. I didn't want to watch the video. So, but I knew that area. I dated someone who worked in that area, so I would sometimes bring him lunch over in that area and stuff. And I've dined at some of the places over there, so yeah.
It's a lot.
It is. So the major events that happened after the murder of George Floyd was my city was on fire, basically. Just think about it for a second. People were shut in for a while. Kids were not in school. Kids weren't able to graduate. So you have young people who weren't able to walk across the stage like everyone else. They weren't able to see their friends. Families not being able to connect. You're not able to see your grandma. So people were starved for interaction. Is something that people really need to understand, that people were starved for interaction. And when you add that to anger, injustice, hatred, all this other stuff, it causes an explosion of a lot of things. And so there were protests here, and they spread it everywhere, literally across the world. And as a Black woman, it was very powerful how someone's name became a world issue. A Black man's name became a world issue. It wasn't just Minneapolis. It wasn't just Midwest. He became a world issue. And that was very powerful and very scary and crazy, because we're still in a pandemic, and here is everyone gathering and sacrificing their lives. That's the other part of this whole thing. It's like, when you protest and you're in a pandemic, you are risking your life. And the rioting, which was crazy to see South Minneapolis not look like South Minneapolis, to see people ruin businesses, and knowing some of these businesses, knowing some of these places, was tough to watch, or being concerned, so like checking in with business owners to see if, hey, is there anything we can do? Is there any, do you need help boarding up some stuff, to protect your business? The rioting and the fires causing food shortage, even enhancing the whole thing of food deserts. So now the one grocery store isn't available. And so now we're all coming together in different ways to distribute food. So we're basically mobile food distribution, shelters, spaces outdoors, and handing people boxes of food in neighborhoods who no longer have their grocery store, or the grocery franchise was so nervous that they just shut completely down. That's what happened in some spaces where they just closed their doors. So for me, I do what is called the Be Lovely community dispatch system. And I tap into all these Facebook groups, all these different people who are what I call boots on the ground. And I literally connect with them, ask what their needs are, connect with any flyers, any information in regards to any food distributions or mutual aid. And I share it constantly throughout the day, updates. I had help with that, which was really cool. All the Facebook groups, mutual aid groups, we were all just working together. Particularly at 38th in Chicago, there's just a group of people whose background was actually in service industry decided to come together and just start cooking and gathering food from people and distributing right there, because this all happened at a convenience store. This all happened at a small store. And so that small store wasn't available. So anyone who was in that neighborhood who was not able to get to the nearest Cub or the nearest Rainbow or the nearest grocery chain, that was their store. And so people just band together. I will say that is something beautifully unique about Minnesota. We volunteer, we give, we go to other places and support other people a lot. And it brought us together in this crazy madness. It was I call it the beautiful struggle. So it was beautiful because we were all coming together, but it was a struggle because it was yet another injustice. The other thing that happened was a lot of beautiful art came out of it because there was so many plywood boards everywhere, and it just, the city looked crazy. And so artists came together in different ways and made art on the plywood or made art on some of the businesses that had been shut down or burned down. There's a problem with some of that because there were some people who were co-opting the entire situation and using it as an opportunity to exploit. And so that was kind of the bad side of it, but the other side was there was a lot of amazing artists, a lot of amazing Black artists who were doing art as an expression of their emotion in regards to all of this. So yeah, that's that's the gist of what the experience was in my eyes, was all of that.
It's a lot to describe. Number one, fun fact about the Midway, it's called the Midway because it's actually the midway point on University between downtown St. Paul, the state capital, and downtown Minneapolis. Fun point. It's a very diverse community. It has changed over the years as any area of any large city. There's many cultures, many races that come together and not only just live there, but they coexist, which to me is more important than just living there. They're true neighbors. They get out, they help each other. If your elderly neighbor needs their lawn mowed, they go mow the lawn, kind of thing.
So,
Midway had a huge impact on me because it's a lower income area, and of St. Paul. And growing up, one of my best friends mostly lived in the Midway Frogtown area because it is a lower income area, and they didn't have very much money. So I spent many a day there just playing with my friends and their friends and neighbors. And as by the time you started hanging out there, it had less of an impact personally to me. I know it had an impact to you, but to me it was more of, for me it was more of second nature, because I spent so many years playing with friends in the Midway that for you to go there, it wasn't a big deal to me, when some people I know always actually lectured me on why I would allow you to go to the Midway, because to them it was the ghetto, because they were ignorant and refused to educate themselves about the community there and how close-knit many of the families were. Just certain groups of people coming together to help after the destruction of the riots. And them just coming together, and for example, places, places that would be drop-off points for food, diapers, whatever is needed, to the safety areas, or the groups that would go out and help the protesters who were tear gassed. And all riots boil down to anger over, in this case, over unfairness and injustice, and certain police officers overstepping bounds and being unnecessarily violent and using their authority in improper ways. So, anger for the injustice of it all. My first reaction was proud, and then shock. Proud that people were coming together, and shock that there was actually so many people coming together. That is, I have to say that the volunteering at the church is the only volunteer event that I have ever been to that had so many volunteers. I wouldn't even begin to guess how many volunteers were there. I would say close to 300, if not more, cycling throughout the time I was there. I was sad and upset that happened. Well, more okay. I was upset and angry that protesters were being tear gassed, and just the stepping of bounds, and the unnecessary force. How did I help? Unfortunately, I do not remember the name of this church, but there is a church right over by the new soccer stadium that was a drop-off point, a safe point for goods, food, diapers, and you name it, it was dropped off there, and I volunteered there with you to help out sorting, delivering packages, and honestly, I don't even remember how long how long I volunteered. I just remember pretty much made a day out of it. I actually cut two very close family members out of my life permanently because they think the lack of basic human rights and being decent human beings is just a matter of opinion. That's the way one of them put it to me was, I can't believe that you're not talking to me because of my matter of opinion. Well, it's more than an opinion, and that's the problem. It boils down to basic human rights and being a decent human being to somebody who is not white, to put it bluntly. What can people do to help going forward? Number one, educate themselves. If you can pick up a phone to Google anything, you can Google places you can donate or volunteer to help long term. They are always out there. I would say if you're a member of a church, start with your church. Community centers. Almost every community center has some kind of resource where you can find to volunteer to help out. And community centers are normally close to libraries, so you can bring your butt right on over to the library and start educating yourself and on racism and how it has affected people in the past and what you could do to start stamping it out. So, in the future, there is no longer racism. What will happen and what should happen are going to be two totally different things. What should happen is people should be better educated and help stamp out racism and to help equal rights. What will happen is there's still going to be a bunch of those redneck hickabillies out there thinking that they're right and will continue being the way they have always been and not educate themselves.